When Malcolm Evans moved into a gated community, he expected peace, not prejudice. But on a blazing summer afternoon, a white woman confronted him at his own pool, demanding he leave. Cameras rolled, neighbors gathered, and what happened next not only shocked the community, but ignited a national firestorm. The sun beamed mercilessly over the Willow Springs gated community that Saturday afternoon, drawing families out of their air-conditioned homes and toward the pristine pool at the center of the neighborhood. Children shrieked with laughter as they splashed in the shallow end, while parents lounged under umbrellas, sipping iced teas and cocktails. The HOA had spent a fortune remodeling the space last spring, and for most residents, it had become the crown jewel of suburban peace. Malcolm Evans leaned back in a teakwood chaise, sunglasses low on his nose, an open book in his hand, and a faint smile resting on his lips. He had moved into the neighborhood just 3 weeks ago, purchasing the modern craftsman-style home on Blue Ridge Court in full, no mortgage. At 35, Malcolm was already a success, an accomplished tech entrepreneur who'd sold his app company and retired early. The pool had been one of the few reasons he chose Willow Springs over the more urban, trendier neighborhoods. He wanted quiet, space, normalcy. But beneath the calm surface of the community, something uglier stirred, something he was about to meet face to face. He had noticed her the second she arrived, platinum blonde bob, oversized sunglasses, skin glistening with tanning oil, and a permanent scowl that seemed etched into her face. She walked with purpose, dragging a small white dog behind her on a pink leash and carrying a tote bag stamped with the words, "Blessed." She scanned the pool deck like a border patrol agent, her eyes narrowing the moment they landed on Malcolm. Karen. Her real name was Margaret Langford, but in online videos, viral memes, and private group chats, she would soon be known simply as Pool Karen. She walked straight past the front desk check-in, ignoring the teenage attendant who blinked awkwardly as she breezed through. Her flip-flops clapped the concrete loudly as she approached Malcolm, who had just turned a page in his book and didn't look up. "Excuse me," she said sharply, standing just 2 feet from him. Malcolm raised his eyes slowly. He had been interrupted enough times in life to know the signs, the rigid posture, the forced smile that never reached the eyes, the tone of entitlement laced with judgment. He'd seen it before in boardrooms, on golf courses, at luxury hotels, and now here it was again, poolside. "Yes?" he said calmly, closing the book on his lap but not rising from his chair. "I just need to ask, do you live here?" she asked, folding her arms. "Because this pool is for residents only." Malcolm blinked. For a second, he thought maybe she was joking. He glanced at his towel, his personalized pool key card clipped to the edge of it. Then he looked back up at her. "I do live here. I moved in a few weeks ago," he said, still calm. "House on Blue Ridge Court." "Really?" she said, arching an eyebrow. "Because I've lived here for 7 years and I've never seen you before." "Well," he replied, "I guess that makes both of us new acquaintances." Karen didn't smile. "I'm just saying," she continued, voice rising slightly. "We've had problems before, people sneaking in, outsiders thinking they can just use our amenities, and we have rules here, security rules." Malcolm nodded slowly. "And those rules are being followed. I scanned in with my key card. My name is Malcolm Evans. You can check with the HOA if you'd like." She huffed. "That's not really the point, is it?" "What is the point, then?" "The point," she said, raising her voice enough to turn heads, "is that you don't look like you belong here." There it was, the ugly core beneath the polite veneer, spoken out loud finally as if it had the right to exist. The pool deck fell quiet. Conversations stopped. The splashing of children slowed. A few parents leaned forward in their chairs, curious. The teenager at the front desk froze, phone in hand. Malcolm stood slowly. "Would you like to repeat that?" Karen took a half step back, perhaps surprised he hadn't backed down. I just meant this is a private community, and we don't usually get visitors like you." "You mean black visitors?" he said plainly, his voice clear but measured. "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to." At that moment, a young woman holding a phone stepped forward from across the pool deck. Her name was Jasmine Moreno, a college student home for summer break. She had been filming since the moment Karen raised her voice. "Hi," Jasmine said, her voice firm but calm. "Just want to let you both know I'm recording for everyone's safety." Karen turned to her. "What? Why are you recording me?" "Because what you're doing is racist," Jasmine replied without flinching. "And the internet needs to see what racism looks like in 2025. "Are you serious right now?" Karen sputtered. "This is harassment." "No," Jasmine said. "This is accountability." Malcolm looked around. He saw a father whispering something to his daughter. He saw another man pick up his phone and begin recording too. The air had shifted. Something had broken open. Karen's voice rose another octave. "This is ridiculous! You all are turning this into something it's not. I was just looking out for the community." "The community doesn't need you to police it," Malcolm said, now fully upright, voice calm but steely, "especially not by profiling residents based on race." "You're twisting my words." "No, you made your words clear." She turned on her heel, flustered, marching back toward the gate as her dog stumbled behind her. "I'm calling the HOA! I'll have you reported!" "Please do," Malcolm called after her. "Tell them Malcolm Evans is available any time." The pool erupted in murmurs. Some people clapped, others just stared. Jasmine kept her phone up for another minute, then turned it toward Malcolm. "Do you want me to send this to you?" "Yes," he said, giving a nod. "And keep the original." The video hit the internet like a wildfire on dry brush. Within 24 hours, it had over 600,000 views. By Monday, it was being shared by local news stations, activist pages, and community watchdog groups. By Wednesday, it had reached CNN, MSNBC, and even late-night TV, where comedians replayed the clip with biting commentary. Karen Langford's face became a national meme. Pool Karen, as the public dubbed her, had unintentionally placed Willow Springs on the map for all the wrong reasons. Her demand that Malcolm leave the pool had been edited, remixed, turned into GIFs, and flooded with reaction videos. Every angle of her confrontation, the stiff posture, the accusatory tone, the moment she shouted, "You don't look like you belong here," became part of a growing collage of modern racism captured in real time. Inside Willow Springs, the consequences started immediately. Malcolm sat at his dining table the following morning, laptop open, as his phone buzzed endlessly with interview requests. Journalists, bloggers, and influencers all wanted a quote, a statement, a reaction. He had turned most of them down. He wasn't chasing fame. He didn't want a spotlight. All he had done was exist. That should never have been a headline. A soft knock came at his front door. He opened it to find a young black man standing on the porch in a blue polo, clipboard in hand. "Mr. Evans," the man said. "I'm Jamal with the Tri-County NAACP. First off, I'm sorry this happened to you. Second, if you ever want legal representation, advocacy, or just someone to stand with you at the HOA meetings, we've got your back." Malcolm nodded appreciatively. "I don't know where this is headed, but thank you." Jamal offered a knowing look. "It's already headed somewhere, brother. The only question is whether you'll lead or let them define the story." That same day, the Willow Springs Homeowners Association sent out a hastily written email to all residents. It was filled with vague language. "We are aware of an incident at the community pool, not reflective of our values. Respect and inclusion are priorities. Further investigation is ongoing." But nowhere in the email did the board acknowledge Malcolm by name. Nowhere did it condemn the racism on display. The email was meant to settle things quietly, but it did the opposite. Residents began choosing sides. Some, especially the younger families and residents of color, were outraged by Karen's actions and even more outraged by the HOA's silence. They formed a Facebook group called Willow Springs for Justice. They scheduled a rally on Saturday in front of the community clubhouse and invited Malcolm to speak. Others, though, grumbled behind closed doors. They whispered at backyard barbecues and texted in private group chats, arguing that Karen was just trying to protect the community, that Malcolm was blowing it out of proportion, and that the video didn't tell the whole story. They shared grainy screenshots of his LinkedIn, trying to find anything that might justify their discomfort. Malcolm felt the shift most clearly in the grocery store. Where once there were polite nods and casual greetings, now came tense silences and sidelong glances. A woman he didn't know crossed the aisle when he reached for the produce section. A man at the checkout stared at him just a few seconds too long. Then came the letters. The first was left in his mailbox with no return address. It was printed in all caps. "You don't belong here. Sell your house before we make you." The second one, written in childlike cursive, said, "Go back to where you came from. You're making everyone uncomfortable." Malcolm showed both to the local police, who shrugged. "Unless there's a direct threat, we can't do much," the officer said, scratching his beard. He thought about calling the news. Instead, he sat at his dining table again, this time typing an open letter. He didn't name names. He didn't flame anyone. He simply told the truth. Being black in America often means proving you belong in spaces that were never built for you. What happened at the pool wasn't new. What's new is that it was filmed, and what comes next will show who we really are, as neighbors, as citizens, and as humans. He posted it to his personal blog and shared it on social media. Within hours, it went viral. Celebrities shared it. Civil rights leaders quoted it. Even the mayor of the city reposted it with a message: "Our communities must do better." And then something unexpected happened. Karen disappeared. She deactivated her Facebook. Her real estate license was suspended pending review. Her daughter, a high school junior, reportedly stopped showing up to school. Her husband, who rarely spoke to neighbors, abruptly listed their house on Zillow. But Malcolm didn't celebrate her downfall. Instead, he focused on what came next. The rally on Saturday drew over 400 people, residents and outsiders alike. Signs read, "Racism has no home here, we stand with Malcolm," and "Black lives belong everywhere." A group of children painted a mural on the sidewalk leading to the pool, showing a diverse group of neighbors swimming together, smiling. Malcolm took the mic only once. He looked out over the crowd, black, white, Latino, Asian, old and young, and spoke quietly. "I didn't come here to start a fight. I came here to live in peace, but peace doesn't grow in silence. It grows when we speak up, even when it's uncomfortable." The crowd applauded. Some cried. Some stood in stunned silence. And in the background, standing just beyond the reach of the microphones, was a face Malcolm hadn't expected: Karen's daughter, Emily. She held no sign, wore no expression of defiance or shame, just a quiet sorrow that didn't need translation. He nodded to her. She nodded back. And in that moment, brief, small, unspoken, Malcolm felt the first ripple of what might one day become change. 2 months had passed since the video of Pool Karen reshaped the small, manicured world of Willow Springs. Summer had given way to early autumn, and with it came a quiet settling. The headlines moved on. The internet found new controversies, and in the eye of that storm, Malcolm Evans tried to resume life. But peace, he discovered, was a longer journey than a news cycle. The HOA board, under pressure, had announced a new diversity and inclusion committee. Malcolm was asked to chair it. At first, he declined. He didn't want to become the unwilling face of racial progress for a neighborhood that hadn't wanted to see him until it was forced to. But after encouragement from a few residents, especially Jasmine Moreno and Jamal from the NAACP, he reconsidered. If the neighborhood was changing, he wanted a hand on the wheel. The first committee meeting was awkward. 5 white residents, 2 people of color, and 1 HOA board member sat around a table in the community clubhouse. No one knew where to begin. Some fumbled with their coffee cups. Others kept their comments vague. It wasn't until Malcolm took out the stack of anonymous hate letters he had received, printed, typed, scrawled, that the air cracked. "This," he said, laying the stack on the table, "is what silence allows." By the end of the meeting, 2 people had teared up. One man, Greg, who had previously defended Karen on social media, apologized. Not performatively, genuinely. "I thought this was all overblown," Greg said, "but I didn't think about what it must feel like walking around here after something like that." Malcolm nodded. "Now you're starting to see." While the committee slowly grew legs, something else unexpected happened. One day, a letter arrived at Malcolm's door. But this one wasn't anonymous. It was handwritten in neat cursive on thick cream stationery. "Dear Mr. Evans, you don't know me, but I know who you are. Everyone does. I was ashamed at first to admit my connection to what happened, but I can't live in silence anymore. Karen Langford is my mother. What she did to you was inexcusable, but what she taught me, growing up, was worse. I'm trying to unlearn all of it now. I want to meet, if you're open to it. Just to talk. Not in public. Not for show. Just human to human. Emily Langford. Malcolm sat for a long time after reading it. He didn't know what to feel. Suspicion? Curiosity? Anger? He reread the letter 4 times. And then, against his own expectations, he wrote back. They met at a quiet coffee shop across town. No press, no cell phones, just 2 people, separated by legacy, trying to find a place in the middle. Emily was nervous. She looked younger than before, wearing a hoodie, no makeup, hands shaking slightly as she stirred her drink. I'm not here to defend my mother, she said. I'm here because I didn't know how wrong things were until I saw that video. Malcolm nodded. Sometimes it takes a mirror, a loud one. My whole childhood, she continued, I heard her say things about black people, Latinos, anyone different, and I thought it was normal. But when that video went viral and people started reaching out, calling her racist, something cracked in me. He let her speak. She told him about growing up with fear disguised as safety, how she'd watched her mother call police on neighbors of color, how she was taught that good fences make good neighbors, as long as the neighbors looked like them. Then she said something he didn't expect. I moved out, she whispered. I couldn't live under her roof anymore. I'm staying with a friend, trying to make sense of what I believe now that I know what I don't. Malcolm didn't know what to say, but something softened in him. Not forgiveness, but the space where forgiveness might one day live. When they parted, she handed him a folded sheet of paper. I'm sorry for what she did. I'm sorry for what I didn't do sooner. You changed more than you know. He walked home with the letter in his pocket. Later that week, the Diversity and Inclusion Committee launched a new initiative, Community Conversations, monthly, town hall-style meetings where neighbors could ask hard questions, share stories, and begin building trust. The first event drew over 200 people. Malcolm stood at the front of the room, not as a victim or a symbol, but as a neighbor, a man trying to rebuild what should never have been broken. People shared stories. A black father recounted how his son was followed home from the park. A white mother admitted she never realized how little diversity her children saw until recently. Jasmine Moreno, now considered a local hero, gave a passionate speech about allyship and bravery. The crowd didn't leave with all the answers, but for the first time they left with questions worth asking. One morning, Malcolm received another email. It was from the city. They were establishing a civic inclusion council and wanted Malcolm to be part of the leadership team. The mayor himself had extended the offer. I'm not a politician, Malcolm said. But you are a voice, Jamal reminded him. And voices like yours change rooms, if you're brave enough to walk into them. He said yes. And as he took his seat on the council months later, across from city officials and community leaders, he reflected on the journey, the confrontation, the fallout, the silence, the ripple, and now, the unbelievable turn. Because this wasn't just a story about racism at a pool, it was about what happened after.